Mishpatim are the known as the social justice laws, and this come. Let's just. Okay, let's start with the beginning, and then we'll work our way out. So, Eila Mishpatim, these are the social justice laws. Asher Tosim Lefneim, it's on page 416, that you shall place before them. And then, okay, so social justice laws. We know Jews were the head of social justice laws. We're very proud of ourselves that we brought that concept to the world. They call now the Judeo-Christian ethic, etc. And the next passage that follows is rather disturbing. Ki sikne evidivri, if you buy a slave, so he should work for you 6 years and he goes out in the 7th year. All right? That's kind of a disturbing thought. And right after that, the next Torah portion, or the next passage is V'chiyimka ishas bitul amma. And if a man sells his daughter as a slave, okay, so here we are, ready for good social justice laws, hearing about wonderful things about, how you have to care for your neighbor and all that kind of good stuff. And the first thing we get is, you buy a slave and you sell your daughter, right? This is the Shalom Aleichem, this is the hello to the social justice laws. Doesn't seem to be, to fit quite well.
What? It doesn't? I mean, this is, the laws are giving rights to people who normally don't have them.
Okay, so I want to get there. It's a good point. I want to talk about rights, and actually a good point. We know there's the famous idea is that when God prepared the Torah, rather He offered it to the other nations of the world as well. He offered it to them. They asked, what does it say? Lo signo. What? It's a midrash.
It is a midrash.
Midrash, yeah. Lo signo. It says, don't kidnap, don't steal, forget it. That's not for me. I read it was promised by Abraham. Yadi bakol, my hand will be everywhere. Yishmael, what does it say? That was Yishmael. Esav lo yisirtzach. You can't murder. What do you mean? My father told me, I'll live by the sword, etc. Okay. So the obvious question is that I understand why a non-Jew might want to reject the Torah based on certain challenges that I won't accept. It gets out of their comfort zone. Thou shalt not have a cheeseburger. I don't go for it. I want my cheeseburger, right? Or you got to rest on the Shabbos. I get it. But to reject the Torah based on do not murder and do not steal makes almost no sense, because every non-Jew is required not to kill and steal anyway. We call 7 Noachide laws. So for them to reject the Torah based on those laws makes almost no sense. We've raised this question before. I want to just share with you from a different angle. All right? Okay. We're going to find in this Torah portion also the idea that if a person is unloading his donkey and the donkey has a lot of weight on it, so then he's supposed to help Azov, Tazav, Imo, he's supposed to help him unload the donkey. And here you see the first idea called enabling. The Torah is very astutely tells us, Azov, Tazov, Imo. You can only help with him. If that person says, you know what, I know you got a mitzvah to help, so I'm sitting on the sideline, I'm reading the Kol Birah, I'm going to have a great time, you help, you unload my donkey. So, Azov, Tazov, Imo, it's only together with him. If he is not willing to do so, then you're not supposed to help him. You're not supposed to help him because you're actually enabling him to be a lazy person that exploits other people, right? Today we call this enabling. Torah recognized right from bad. You're helping him. You're not really helping him. Then actually pull back. Okay, but we know there's a concept that one of the reasons to help is obviously because of the tzar b'achayim, the fact you're not allowed to watch an animal be under extra duress, and therefore the animal has a big load. Help relieve that load. Okay, so we know that there are two categories basically. We talked last week of the Ten Commandments, that the two categories. The first set of 5 deal with ben adam l'makom, deal with laws between man and God. And the second set deal with ben adam l'chaver, between man and fellow man. Make sense? Do not kill, do not murder, do not commit adultery, man, fellow man. I am Lord your Lord, don't have other gods. Those are laws between us and God. Makes sense. Where would you put tzar b'achayim? Do not cause pain to animals. Is that into the ben adam l'chavero category? Or the ben adam l'makom category? Is this how you deal with other people, in this case other animals? Or is this in the ben adam l'makom category? I want to give me a chance to think for a second. Ever hear the question? Yeah?
It's between us and God, because we don't have a defendant to raise a claim. And whenever there's a wrong with no one to speak up for himself, then God takes us
That's what we're looking at it. Okay, I hear that. Somebody can defend the poor dog, so that's being less than God. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, but mitzvah to bury somebody, the person who died can't defend themselves, but that's b'nei Adam also. So
Right.
that's not between God, that's with the person. They can't
Right,
defend
okay.
themselves.
So let's try to figure out what it means. All right? So, in a sense, I'm going to say something, hope not too politically incorrect, and hope you don't get...
Say what you need to say.
All right. So, I want to suggest that there really are no such thing as animal rights. Animals don't have rights. Human beings have responsibilities to animals. There are inherent rights that a human being has. Every human being has certain rights. We have responsibility towards the animal. We have responsibility. We can't be cruel. We have to be sensitive to them. Can't be callous in pain. But it's not because so much they have a right as we have a responsibility. The laws between us and God, those are laws that, because God decreed them, that's why they're right. The laws between us and man, they're right, that's why God decreed them. Let me say it again. So the laws between man and God essentially is that God said this is right and this is wrong, and that's why it became right, and that's why it became wrong. The laws between us and man, it's almost the reverse. There are inherent rights that a human being has, and God says you need to recognize those rights, and God points them out to us, what those rights are. But the animal doesn't have inherent rights, so to speak. We have responsibility to the animal. So really, if it doesn't almost fit into the category of Ben Adam L'Chavero, because Ben Adam L'Chavero really deals with the rights that human beings have. Ben Adam L'Makam deals with the fact that God says, let me point out what responsibilities you have. All right? So it fits much more into the category between us and God than it fits in the category between us and man. Again, and perhaps even one of the proofs is it's not even clear. Tsar B'Chayim, according to many opinions, only implies you can't cause pain to an animal. There's no inherent obligation to prevent an animal from having pain. The rabbi said there is. That in fact is even the reason you allowed to move muksa to prevent pain for an animal, etc., etc. The Rabbanan waived the muksa from the rabbinic perspective, but from the Torah perspective, according to many opinions, the inherent mitzvah is specifically not to cause pain to the animal as opposed to prevent pain. If it was between man and man, then we should make no difference whether you're causing pain to the man or stopping the man from having pain. All right? But okay, I'm using this more as a segue for something else. Although again, and I was kind of kidding when I said I'm scared of the repercussions of being politically correct. No, but obviously it's important that we know this, and I'm not telling you that you don't know that today the lines are being blurred in every single area, and it's a pretty scary thought. Somebody once sent me this article, and it was blown. It's back 15, 20 years ago, maybe a little less. Yeah, that sounds all right. A fellow by the name of Dennis Prager. You guys heard of Dennis Prager, right? Mm-hmm. So he was on a plane flying someplace, and he ordered a kosher meal, and the woman sitting next to him was very aghast. It was a meat meal, whatever it was, and she says, "Oh, I guess you're comfortable eating other animals, like you're an animal eating other." Mm-hmm. And he was like very taken aback by her reaction, and so he has a radio show in L.A., and he asked the following question. He said, "If your dog was drowning, and the stranger was drowning, whom would you save?" So I remember at the time I had a guy in my house for Shabbos. I actually remember his name, Lawrence Kaplan. He actually wrote for the Wall Street Journal for many years. A very bright fellow, extremely bright fellow on foreign policy. I said, "Lawrence, I got this thing. I just can't believe it." He goes, "Of course, Robert, it's silly." And he's an arch conservative, really arch conservative. Of course, it's silly. I said, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "Of course I'd save my dog." I said, "What?" I said, "What?" I was like, "Where are you coming from, Lawrence?" He said, "Rabbi, I'm emotionally attached to my dog." I said, "Honestly, if your grandmother gave you a plant, and now you love this plant because it reminds you of your grandmother, and you're emotionally attached to the plant, you mean if the plant was drowning and a human was drowning, you'd save the plant?" And he's like looking at me like he didn't know what the answer, because he kind of wanted to say yes, and on the end he kind of, he wrote his own, epitaph, so to speak, by claiming that's the reason. But today it's a scary thought that people don't say that human beings have rights. We have responsibility to the animal, but the right of the human being takes precedence, so to speak. That's a really important concept. So you're absolutely right in that the reason why the Torah begins the social justice laws with buying a servant and selling a daughter, which although things certainly don't sit well with us, Rav Hirsch points out very beautifully. He says, really, this is a classic example of how the written law without an oral law, we're done, we're finished. we get a totally skewed view. He says like this, he says, first we all know, this is based on Rashi, and everyone knows this, based on your law, that this servant that we're talking about, this person, he's not really a slave, he's an indentured servant, and he's really put to work because of the fact that he stole, and he has to make restitution. You know, you have to have at least one corny joke a week, right, from a rabbi, right? So there was a fellow comes over to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, I just things are really rough financially. It's just impossible. My business is going down the drain. I don't know what to do. Rabbi, what should I do? He said, I tell you, I'm not a financial advisor. I really can't tell you. I said, but Rabbi, you're a rabbi. He said, well, study Torah. So it didn't sound like but a really good answer, but that's what he did. Anyway, about 6 months later, the rabbi's walking down the street. Sure enough, his friend is driving this Bentley, big smile on his face, fancy car, everything's great. He said, hey, look, things must have worked out. He said, Rabbi, I can't begin to thank you enough. Your advice was amazing. He said, my advice was amazing. What I tell you? I'm telling you. He said, well, you told me to study Torah. He said, okay, so what happened? He said, well, I opened the Bible, and it said on top, chapter 11. So I followed chapter 11. Now, that is an interesting, that's an out that we have in secular law. Judaism does not recognize chapter 11, meaning if you owe, you have to make restitution for two reasons. Number one, if you have a debt to society, you owe it to society, you can't walk away from that debt. Number two, the commentaries point out, it's best for you. You'll feel like a better person when you rehabilitate yourself and you pay your debt to society. If you build a society where people are always indebted and they owe and they never really pay restitution, they lose their dignity. And once people lose their dignity, they know that they have, the barrier is gone, and they do other things that compromise their dignity, and so on and so forth, and then it spirals downward. So this thief stole. If this thief stole, he can't file Chapter 11. He's got to work and pay back. But at the same time, the Torah recognizes that it has to be done in a way that restores his dignity. And we all know that when Misha couldn't ever cut a smile, if you buy yourself your servant, you actually bought yourself a master, because there's so much responsibility you have to this person and to his wife and to his kids.
That's just a Hebrew servant.
What?
That's a Hebrew servant.
Exactly right. Exactly. Evid. We'll get to the Evid soon. And then you have the case of the person selling his daughter, again, which sounds rather awful, but again, the commentaries tell us, the oral law tells us, it's a very specific and unique case where they are in such abject poverty that the only way out is to have her work for somebody else, and hopefully this person will marry her and therefore give her some financial stability. In fact, all the laws of the ksuba, which is share ksus v'nasa, that you have to obligate it to your wife to feed her, to clothe her, and the relationship you're supposed to have with her. We all learn those laws are based on this particular relationship of this master who purchases this who hires this woman who eventually, hopefully, marries her. So the bottom line is like this, and you're right about this. We know that the people lowest on the totem pole, in terms of in society, least respected are the criminal and the poor. They get always, the least respect, certainly. And the Torah does this. I call this Torah logic. You're familiar with studying the Talmud. This is it's a way of testing truth. If you want to test the truth in the Talmud, you apply it to an extreme scenario. If it doesn't apply an extreme scenario, then maybe it's not a truth. Because truth has to be truth, it has to be consistent. So a classic example would be, somebody has an argument with you and says, I believe that countries can decide what's moral based on the consensus of the country. And then it becomes moral for that country. So I would counter and say, I guess you feel that the Nazis were moral because the consensus of the country was to go ahead and kill Jews. So that doesn't make sense. So I took what they made as a statement or a philosophical concept of what morality is, I applied to an extreme scenario. It doesn't really apply there, right? So very often you can test the truth by applying it to an extreme and say, does it really make sense over there? Well, if it doesn't, then maybe a truth is not a truth. So the same thing over here. If you want to talk about human rights and how important they are, the Torah specifically chooses those two people that most people don't consider have rights, the criminal and perhaps the poor. And the Torah says, I'm going to begin the social justice laws with those people that we don't think of having human rights, and I'm going to tell you how much responsibility we have to them. Whether it's to the criminal, and I have to treat that criminal, he has to pay his debt to society. Certainly it's balanced, but you also have to treat him with dignity. The flip side, this impoverished woman. So, draw your conclusion, says the Torah. If I'm telling you, and I'm starting the social justice laws with these people, imagine how you have to understand human rights in general, okay? So the first thing Mishpatim tells about human rights, closing the circle, that's could exactly what it be. Yes, the other nations of the world, when they rejected the Torah, they rejected it even though they had those responsibilities. But from their perspective, the seven Noach laws simply said, these are rules you have to follow. Not because there's inherent human rights, but because society recognizes, so to speak, that unless we have these rules, we're going to kill each other. So we need to have rules. But what they were rejecting was the fact that the Torah is going to define what those rights are, these human rights. They didn't want any part of that. That they didn't want. We can go along with the fact that there are rules and regulations, but to claim that there are actually human rights that we don't determine, that God says these are inviolable human rights, that's what they were trying to reject. All right, so that's the first section of Parashat Mishpatim. Again, these social justice laws, and it starts with the criminal and the poor specifically to emphasize that even they have rights, and we distinguish perhaps between the animal right and the human right. The animal right may not be so much a right as a human responsibility towards the animal. Human rights are inherent rights. There are inherent rights that human beings have. They're created in the image of God, and therefore they have certain inherent rights as that human being. And that's what Torah is recognizing over here across the board. We'll stop here. We'll come back after my